This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Morning, Bob. Happy crossover season. How busy are you these days?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Well, I'm really good. I'm busy. I can barely keep myself awake with all the work we're doing now. Crossover season, just like an old hat to you, man. I mean, this is when rubber really meets the road for a college sports journalist. This is your time of the year.
Well, yeah, it's a busy time. Obviously, you got football still going strong, and basketball started up. And I don't know, people may or may not be in the cross country, but Arkansas's got the NCAA South Regionals tomorrow. You got women's basketball, and got baseball news today, and signing day, and soccer, NCAA soccer, and so volleyball's still going. So it's a lot of stuff.
See, and I just bring up basically basketball and football, and Bob points out all the other sports that he's got to write about too, because it's all right there for you. Basketball tomorrow, Bob, and reading in your piece in the Democrat-Gazette today, it's like, thank you very much, Presbyterian Blue Hose, for beating an SEC team in their own building to start the season. I guess that's Muss's pregame. I don't call it a speech, because a speech is somebody standing there just talking to somebody. Muss does like uniforms and costumes and props and everything, so I'm not sure what to call it. Maybe a performance. Yeah,
I was trying to figure out if he could get his hands on a Presbyterian uniform, or maybe some. I saw blue hose. I thought, what is that? Is that a bird or something? But it's just basically blue socks. So it's like the Red Sox with the white. The Reds were what, the Red Stockings or the Red Legs originally, Cincinnati Reds, and so but it just apparently it's something to do with blue socks back in the 20s. But yeah, I was looking through some scores on, looking up some stuff on Gardner Webb and in the Big South, and I saw Presbyterian, and I knew Presbyterian beating Vandy. I had not made the connection. I honestly, I hate to admit, I did not know Presbyterian was in the Big South. And Vandy had some players out, but you're like, what is Vandy doing losing to Presbyterian? Come on. I thought, well, and Eric talked about this the other night about how somebody's going to get beat, but here's the worst, at least projected to be the worst in the Big South beaten. Vandy's not in the top 20 or anything, but they're a pretty solid program, and it looks like they almost made the NCAA tournament last year. They had a bunch of good wins at home, so I figured, I don't know, I have absolutely no idea what Eric's pregame thing will be. I'll call it a thing. But I certainly wouldn't be surprised if he incorporates Presbyterian being Vanderbilt into it.
Bob, you know, they're all trying to build trust and trying to put some money back in the bank to kind of whittle down to be one of these top 7, top 8 players. That being said, do you think Coach starts the same 5? How do you think he'll start changing up the rotation this week?
Well, I think he's going to start the same 5. I based that on that's why he said on his radio show Tuesday night. But, this is the time of the year that you sort of try different combos. I thought it was interesting that Chandler Lawson plays 33 minutes, I think it was, against Purdue, and then he played, I think, about 8 minutes the other night. But Jalen Graham, who's a guy I think they're counting on, if they weren't, I don't think he would be back here if they didn't want him back and he didn't want to be back. And he'd missed the 2 exhibition games, the back stabs, and so he had a real nice about 15 minutes, 8 boards, 8 points. But, Chandler barely played, but I still think he's going to be a key guy for him. But they got, some more guys involved. They got Dave Falls some minutes. And so, they played 13 guys in the first half, and so that'll never happen again. So we know he likes the rotation, and maybe 7 to me seems a little bit small with the talent they have. 8, maybe 9. Sometimes he says 8.5, and you think, well, how does that work? Well, that means there's a 9th guy there that may play more in some games, or maybe he plays because there's foul trouble or some. But Eric likes to keep a pretty tight rotation. And right now it's like he said, guys are going to be playing their way in and playing their way out of that. And so, they don't want to be figuring out what they need to do against Duke, or honestly, when they're in the Bahamas, although that's 3 games in 3 days, you're going to need to use your bench, you would hope, in that. But yeah, this is a key time for a lot of guys. Maybe not, Devo Davis and Trevor Brazil and L. Ellis and some of these guys are already, Mark and it looks like Battle is back strong, which is good. They had some guys injured in the summer that are healthy now. And so, this is a key time for a lot of those guys trying to win rotation spots for sure.
Really got to be patient, right? Just because you know that and so much of it depends on the team that you're playing against. I know that's why Lawson wasn't out there as long, probably because there wasn't a guy who was 7'4" or 7-footer that you worry about, like they did with Zach Edey. But there are players like that are going to be coming down, and it's interesting too because when you look at things, Trevin Brazil's not a 5. He's not a pure 5. I'm not sure if I would put Lawson in that category either. But I think if it comes to defending against centers that are about Brazil's height and maybe a little taller, Lawson might be the guy to do it, and Graham too. Like, that's the thing, and I really wanted to see it against Purdue, but he had the back problem. Is whether or not Graham can defend against somebody of his size in the lane. I think we already see Lawson can.
Yeah, Lawson, of course, throw Makai Mitchell in there too. He also didn't play many minutes. But I think, Eric, he's wanting to give Bay Falls some minutes, so he fouls a lot. Layden Blocker, I think Layden Blocker might have fouled out the other night. So he's a really talented young guy, but he needs to learn to play without fouling. But that's what these games are for, to get these guys, get their feet wet and get used to some things. And I think it's really good they've got a bunch of older guys up to lead these young guys as well. Obviously, the coaching staff's leading them. But, they've got and you're right about Trev. Trev might be a 3, honestly, a small forward. I hesitate to call him a small forward. Could he be a big small forward? Is that a term? Maybe we can invent
he
that.
Is. He's
something.
he's a 4/ he's a perimeter 4. Like he is. But he's not really a small forward. But he's a power forward. He's just he's a matchup nightmare is what he is.
Yeah, that's why I think he's going to be a high draft pick. And honestly, if he was healthy last year, he probably would already be on an NBA roster. But I think it's really good for him to be back here and keep him develop his game. So obviously good for the Razorbacks. But yeah, he's just such an interesting skill set because he can knock down threes. He can run the floor like a gazelle. The way he runs the floor for a big man reminds me a lot of Daniel Gafford. He's not quite as maybe strong inside as Gafford, but the way those two guys can run the floor, he can block a shot, go on the other end, and finish a break with a dunk. I mean, he just and he looks like he's really comfortable again, like he's not favoring his knee or anything. That's good to see. And he shoots free throws well. He just got so much upside. It's such a good ceiling. And I think Mizzou kind of saw him as an inside guy, and Arkansas has really unleashed his potential, I think, a lot better, honestly, than Missouri did. Sorry to say that, but it's true as a Missouri grad. But, this team just has a lot of, Matt Pater pointed about the backcourt, a lot of interchangeable parts. We could probably talk about the front court, too. They just have a lot of versatility, and they give the coaching staff a lot of options if you want to go big, go small, go kind of medium. You think about Eric's first team where Adriel Bailey at 6'6" was like, their center. They just didn't. They had a lot of real good perimeter players like Mason Jones and Isaiah Joe, but they just didn't have much inside. Now they obviously have the perimeter. They got the inside and the outside, and that's Eric's give him time to recruit, and he's going to put together a nice roster for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how it comes together. Bob, the Razorback, the football Hogs got them a victory, got the first conference win last week. And I don't know. I think this Auburn game is going to be tougher than what most people think. What are your thoughts headed into this Auburn game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a real tough game. I thought that from the time the schedule came out because I think Hugh Freeze is a really good coach, and I know Auburn doesn't have as much talent as they usually do, and their quarterback situation was not ideal. I'll put it that way. But, they won a couple of games. Now, granted, they beat, they beat Mississippi State at home, which we know was some Arkansas wasn't able to do, but they've made this change now at coordinator. And then they put it on Vandy pretty good on the road. And, again, those are not two great teams, and they don't have real good defenses. But still, it looks like Auburn's figured some things out. Peyton Thorne, the transfer quarterback from Michigan State, is throwing the ball well. I think he has 5 touchdown passes with 1 pick the last 2 games. Good accuracy. He runs the ball pretty well. He's got over 300 rushing yards. And, people remember Robbie Ashford was their starter for much of last year. He's pretty much a running guy. They'll have a package for him, although Thorne really can do it all. And then, Hunter, their running back's got, I think, close to 700 yards in 8 games. He's a very dangerous runner. They're averaging close to 200 rushing yards a game. Their defense is pretty salty. Got good special teams. It's 9 games now to Hugh Freeze, so I think the players have adjusted to him and the coaching staff and vice versa. So I think this will be a real tough game. I mean, real tough, but maybe tougher than Florida, which I never thought I'd say that. But And then you got to see, how does Arkansas handle it? They handle those tough losses pretty well, kept playing hard. How are they going to handle honestly, a historical win for the program? Are they going to be focused, or are they still going to have their heads in Gainesville? So I think this will be a real tough game. I expect it to be, like a 2 or 3 point game, one way or the other.
They're handling Rocket carefully during practice just so that knee doesn't swell up. We've only seen Rocket healthy from maybe the first game, and he didn't even play the full games. I don't think he was at 100% against Florida, though he certainly played well. How much do you think this team needs Rocket Sanders to be available and at least close to what he was against Florida in order to make a bowl game?
Yeah, I think that's real important because we know they have no margin for error. I guess sometimes teams can make it at 5 and 7, and depending on APR and different things. But I don't think Arkansas anybody wants to count on that. So they have no margin for error. They've got to win tomorrow or for Saturday, and then they've got to beat FIU, and then they've got to beat Missouri. And yeah, Rocket. I mean, we saw what a healthy Rocket did. I think it really helped open things up for KJ. Helped open some things up for the passing game. I mean, Rocket had some big runs, a big run in overtime to get him down to a 15 or whatever it was, and he had a couple good runs on their last drive that got the field goal that sent it to OT. He just looked real good. And now they don't have Ty Washington. We know they don't have Luke Haas, so we're not sure what they're going to get from the tight ends. Maybe Gums, who was a pretty productive guy at North Texas. We'll see if maybe he gets integrated into the passing game somewhat. But yeah, I think it's real important. To answer your question, I guess I'm going the long way around there. But yeah, I think it's real important that Rockets stay healthy and be productive.
Do we have? I saw what Phil had. The rundown Phil has, and it has all the permanent opponents for the baseball. Do we know our permanent opponents for basketball and football going forward? And what are your thoughts? I want to get both your guys' thoughts on Ole Miss and Missouri being the Razorbacks' permanent opponent in baseball.
Well, I think it's good. It makes a lot of sense. It makes sense geographically, right? They're both about a 5-hour drive. So if Arkansas fans want to go to those series on the road, they can do it, and vice versa. I don't know if Missouri baseball fans travel much, but hey, girlfriends and parents and whatever can make it. So I think, and also, Ole Miss and Arkansas, that's just a good rivalry going back to even before the SEC, when Arkansas got in the SEC. And Missouri, maybe that's forced fed, but I think that makes sense. So I think geographically and competitively for baseball makes a lot of sense. And I don't know what, football, we really don't know what they're doing football-wise beyond, next season, and same for basketball. But certainly I think, for Arkansas, you'd like to have Texas in the mix in any sport, and that obviously would have been good for baseball too, but I get, Texas and A&M need to play, and Oklahoma probably, but, I think LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri, teams like that, Texas, those should be teams that Arkansas is playing a lot if possible.
I think you have to look at this there's two perspectives to look at it from. There's the perspective of marquee matchup with baseball. Like, you're right, with football and basketball, they haven't announced anything. The football thing, you got to know how many games they're playing first, and right now that's still up in the air. Basketball, I think, is a lot easier to figure this out because you play everybody on an 18-game schedule. Baseball keeps it at 30, so you're going to miss a few teams on an annual basis. But, so maybe Missouri is not a marquee matchup, but I'll tell you what it might be, Bob. I mean, it's no offense to your alma mater, but it could very well be close to an annualized guaranteed series win, and that's big for the baseball program. Because truthfully, I mean, you look at the teams that are lined up in the SEC, Missouri's the bottom of the barrel, man, so bring them.
Well, they probably were trying to make sure Arkansas played a strong academic school. That's the way I look at it.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.